A little baby review. I'm going to do a review of a couple things. I noticed on the feedback form that there were a couple slides that really stood out for people. So I thought, oh, let's just revisit those for a sec. So all the people that weren't at the class the last class, that they'll get a little upgrade there. Okay. Well, good. I'm going to go ahead and load the PowerPoint. But first, I'm just going to introduce myself. My name is Jen Roscoe, and I'm a counselor with the Montana Public Health Training Center under the Wellness Program. And yeah, our Montana Public Health Training, we thought it would be cool to create a series of classes that really touch on communication skills, emotional intelligence, lots of these things that we use every day in our work lives and also translate to our everyday lives. And with me is Desiree.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your attendance and your enthusiasm about all of Jen's classes. So thank you.
Great. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and load the PowerPoint. And again, my thanks to Desiree for helping me with any technical issues that may arise. All right. So let's just begin. And I imagine people are going to pop in as we're rolling along, and that works out great. So this is a class on communication skills. And yeah, you're going to notice that these are probably a lot of things you know already. And we're going to go a little bit deeper into some of the things that are really helpful for working in your work environment and at home, basically in all your relationships. Okay, let's go. All right, so today we're going to be focusing on, with each class, I start with a mindfulness skill. It's just something that you can put in your back pocket anytime that you're moving through your day. And this typically is just like a 5-minute quick mindfulness skill. Then I'm going to just do a quick review from class 1, specifically focusing on the power of words and how influential they are in moving through communication. Next, we're going to just skip over emotional intelligence and like how that is interweaved. And then I'm going to go into listening strategies that are really active in listening. And I'm going to really pinpoint 5 and do a little deep dive on each one of those. All right. Okay, so today's mindfulness tool is called the container. I actually made a wellness video that is going to be on our website soon. So for those of you that might bring this back to your teams, you'll be able to access this video, and the next time you have a team meeting or whatever, you can bring this up at the beginning of a team meeting and discuss it and just kind of interweave some of these skills that we're learning in the workplace. All right, so I'm just going to push play. Here we go. Hello and welcome. My name is Jen Roscoe. I'm a counselor with the Montana Public Health Training Center under the Wellness Program. And today's tip and tool is called the container.
We all know that containers hold things. There's a lid that opens and closes and keeps things safe. Sometimes we need a container that's metaphorical to put emotions into that are a little bit too big. This tool helps you bracket emotions until you're ready to come back to them and deal with them at a better time. So think of a container. It might be from childhood. It might be nostalgic. It might be something that you already have in your back pocket. Think about the texture. Think about how it opens. What is it like on the inside? Is it shiny? Is it wood? Also, containers can have an outside and what is underneath. Think about what would be a good container to hold these emotions for later. Imagine if your container has a lock. Also, what would it be like when you open it up inside? What is the exterior? Is it made out of clay or ceramic? How does it close? What is the outside texture? And is it the inside that is the same or is it different? When you open it up, does it make a sound? Also, what are the hinges? What keeps it open and closed safe? Are there any designs on your container? And if so, what does it feel like? Smooth or is it rough? Is the inside the same or is it different? Imagine your container is something magical, something that can shrink down and put in your back pocket to take with you wherever you need to go. This container can open easily and close easily so you can access it later whenever it works for you. How do you close it? Are there any designs on your container? And if so, is there anything that is helpful to help you hold things in place and keep things safe? Containers can be all sizes and be reminiscent from childhood, like a cookie jar. Also, where does your container live? Think about the place in your mind where this container will be for you to access it. It's okay to think outside of the box. A container could be a non-traditional object, like a light. Imagine the light opening and closing and keeping all your emotions safe until you're ready to open it again. Containers can also be outside of the box with a lid. Lids could be anything from a big bunch of flowers. Also, sometimes people like to have containers that incorporate the elements, such as fire, or something cooling like water inside the container. Or even using your imagination of the earth to hold the container of all emotions, and just having a plain old rock used as your lid. Some people really enjoy the idea of a rock that can split open and hold emotions or thoughts or memories to come back to later. As long as you can open it and close it, it works. Other people imagine something even larger than a rock. The idea of a massive wood pile where you can put your emotions in safely and come back to later. Remember to make time to go back to your container and allow emotions, thoughts, and memories to surface. Bracketing time for these things will help your mental wellness to feel better internally and externally. Okay, thanks again for tuning in. There's more tips and tools and lots of resources on our website on the Montana Public Health Training Center under the Wellness Program. Have a great day.
All right, so the container. for those of you that are just popping in and have no idea what's going on, I just shared a mindfulness tool that folks can use in your day if something happens throughout your day. And let's say it's something kind of dysregulating where you're having a spike of emotion come up within your system. The container is a mindfulness skill where you're consciously thinking of, okay, I can't deal with this in this moment, but I want to come back to it later. And so it's actively visually in your mind putting either the moment or the emotions, or if there's any cognitions that are negative, into your container, kind of closing it, putting it in a safe place. And for some people, it's just in their back pocket. It can be back home in a safe place, wherever it works for you. But the idea is that you do go back to it and check in on it and pull it out. And as a counselor, sometimes I give people 10 minutes a day to just open up that container and worry the heck out of whatever it is. And so this is a form it's called bracketing, that sometimes counselors help people that constantly are ruminating or thinking about something that's dysregulating. Schedule it in your day and figure out a time like, okay, today later on at 6 o'clock, I'm just going to open my container and I'm just going to feel into those feelings, all of it. And then when the timer is up, put it back in and come back to it later. And if you want, you can reopen it with a therapist or later on with someone else that feels safe. But sometimes during our workday, we don't have time to deal with what's happening in that moment. And so I wanted to share this mindfulness piece that's helpful. Okay, so let's move on. Oh, silly rabbit. Okay. There we go. Okay, so we're just going to do a quick review over the last class. And last week we leaned into the idea of communication and how we actually only communicate through words about 35%. We really use all these other parts of communicating that are nonverbal. Physical, our eye contact, the way our voice goes up and down. We're texting constantly, and also through symbols. And emotional intelligence often plays into this as well. If someone's not wanting to talk in that moment, they let you know through their own verbal cues. It doesn't have to be through speech. And so last week, we kind of leaned into all these different words and noticed how powerful they are and how they can evoke either collaboration and curiosity, or if they can kind of put up walls in between folks. And so I'm just going to go through them quickly. The first one is but. And but, I mean, we all use but all the time. One of the examples I gave last week of how it can be tough is if, someone says to you, gosh, I just love you so much. You're just one of my favorite people in the world. Really, truly, you're just so amazing. But everything you did yesterday really annoyed me. Okay, so that's kind of an example where most people, they actually don't hear all those nice things you said in the beginning. They only hear what is said after the word but. So people tend to, and just our brains do this, they tend to focus on the negative. So even though you may try to convey something to someone with all these nice things right before, after you say the word but, it's just this part in our brain that clicks in and only focuses on the negative. And so one thing that's helpful is incorporating the word and instead of but. This is really helpful because but tends to be a word that spikes. Just people get defensive after they hear it, and the word and can be really helpful in incorporating. All right, so let's move on to always and never. Oftentimes we use always and never, and everyone does. This is just part of our verbiage and our culture. But typically when someone says they're always, or you never, it tends to move into black and white thinking. And so if you notice that you say that often to a partner and a real common one is, gosh, you always leave the toilet seat up, or you never do the dishes. It tends to put that person over in this category that they've never done it ever. And it doesn't help actually for collaboration and figuring out ways to like move through whatever that conflict is. And so just notice if you're using always and never in your verbiage, especially when you're talking with others, kids, or about other people. It tends to really put people in this one category that's very black and white. And if you can soften that piece, it kind of moves more into the spectrum that we all move through, because we are complex creatures and we are not very black and white. Okay, shoulding. All right, shoulding's pretty amazing. And when I first learned this, I was amazed at how much I say you should. And also I started noticing when people were saying you should to me. So shoulding is sort of it's like a wagging of the finger. You really should do that. It tends to immediately bring up a wall for other people when they're being shoulded upon. And so notice if you do that to yourself as well, because shoulding tends to lead to being pretty hard on ourselves and being hard on others. And it's a tough one to break. I should all the time. But that's another one to just notice if that's a word that you can soften and find another way to share something in a softer way. All right, so I'm going to jump over to close-ended versus open-ended questions. So we know that close-ended questions end in a yes or a no from folks. And open-ended questions, and teachers know this, tend to evoke more collaboration. It creates curiosity for most people. So when you use questions that are, what do you think? How can we do this? It opens up the possibility of figuring out solutions to things. And so notice if you're using what and how or where. Those tend to like kind of spark a different part of the brain in figuring out ways that you may be able as a team to figure out new ways of figuring out things. And that can be like easily incorporated with an I statement. So, okay, I'll get to I statements in a sec, but let's check in on why. So why is another word that tends to bring up negativity for folks in the sense of feeling attacked and wanting to put a wall up. So have you ever heard someone say something like, why would you do that? Notice everything that's happening with my face. Notice the inflection of my voice and notice how you feel. Why would you do that? I'm giving up a lot of verbal cues, nonverbal, and also visually through my communication that tends to put people on the defensive and want to defend themselves. And it's a little harder to move into creating collaboration and connection when you use why at the beginning of a statement. Okay, you statements versus I statements. This is such a good one to connect with open-ended questions. So if you're noticing throughout your day that something's come up, and if you say something like, you made me feel so angry, versus, I'm feeling really upset right now. People can't really argue with you when you say, I'm feeling upset. That's true for you. You might be feeling upset. I feel upset. Versus you made me, it kind of takes away all your power as a person and saying the other person is in charge of your emotional landscape. And so it's a real conscious shift in switching from I statements versus you statements. All right, so I just wanted to skim that really quick. We went over this the last class, but there was so much feedback in the forums that people really enjoyed that slide that I just wanted to go back over it for all the new people that signed up for today. So thanks for those for holding through that one. Okay, so next I want to show you a video that kind of incorporates this idea of listening. And so I just want you to notice how these two interact. And we'll check in and I'll ask you what you notice after I show you the video. All right, here we go.
It's just, there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there.
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing.
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
Yeah, see, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See,
out.
you're not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just, sometimes it's like there's this achy, I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
That sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Come on. If you would just.
Don't.
Try to see things my way.
All right. So, oh my gosh, I just love that video. It's definitely, it's starting back up. I'll just pause right here. Okay, so I'm wondering if people could maybe unblock their screens for just a sec and check in, because I mean, this is a funny video. It's definitely, you know, she's got a nail literally in her forehead. And what do people notice about this video with listening?
I like how you can see they're both so frustrated. Like, it's not just her, it's him too. Like both sides are frustrated.
Yeah, totally. Thanks so much, Trista. Yeah, they're you can see the emotion. They're facing each other. What do you notice? What else do people notice?
So, a little story about this video. I have a really good buddy of mine who went through a breakup, and he related to this video as the guy who's like, come on, like there's this obvious problem that you're just not acknowledging and not dealing with. And like, it's so obvious. And it was really frustrating to him. So, I mean, I see how you can take this from many different angles, but I just wanted to share that perspective.
Okay, yeah. Thanks so much. It's B-Rad. Love that name. B-Rad Applegate. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, so noticing, and that's how we are in relationships, right? We notice, and we tend, especially when we're in an intimate relationship, if someone's really struggling with something, you can see it pretty obviously often. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out. What else do people notice?
The should and always.
Ah, yep. Thanks, Julie. Yeah, you always do this. And the shoulding about you really should just take out that nail. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else?
I agree with B-Rad that you could really take it from both. Hi, B-Rad. You could really take it from both angles. You know, I didn't know who was kind of in the right. They're both right.
Yeah, they're both right. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I also noticed that no matter how obvious the answer or the solution was, she just wanted to be heard and listened to and understood. And then he gave her, you know, he kind of gave her that, but she was refusing to do that because that's not what she needed to hear right now. She just wanted to be listened to instead of a solution.
Totally. Yeah. So that, like, the fact that she, you know, he was pointing it out. He was like, you know, if you just deal with this, and she just didn't, she was not she wasn't in that space of hearing and wanting to hear about what was wrong. She really just wanted to be heard and listened to. Okay. This is so great. I really appreciate everyone's feedback and what they noticed. I'm just going to check the chat real quick. Kim K says, not having to be right at all, just compassionate and seeking to hear. Thanks, Kim. Julia just added, listening to connect. Wonderful. Well, good. Well, I just love this video because one, it's funny. And two, it's helpful for us to notice. This is going to kind of lead us into the next thing I want to move into, which is communication skills. All right. All right, let's see if my computer will work. All right, so we're going to move into some active listening skills. And these are the 5 that I kind of want to deep dive. And so I'm just going to kind of skim over them real quick and then go into them separately. All right, so this first one, I mean, it just seems so obvious, right? Taking a breath, just taking a moment. Oftentimes when people come to us, they're in a heightened state. People are feeling upset, and you can see it coming. Usually, you know, our emotional intelligence and also the communication skills of just using nonverbals, you can see it coming. So for you to actively take a breath is really helpful in that moment. Acknowledging what's happening. This is an I statement. I can see you're upset. And so we're going to kind of go into a little bit of verbiage as well. Focusing on specific emotions. So when people are emotional, when they've moved into any sort of emotion that's tough, anxiety, fear, stress, it goes into a different part of the brain, and we literally cannot logically think. And so that isn't the time to move into problem solving. So I'm going to focus on emotions and kind of the brain science with that. The next one is inviting more information. Hey, is there more you want to share? And just, you know, really digging into a little bit more through active listening to find out what else this person wants to share. Because I tell you what, it is gold when someone actually wants to listen. It's hard. This is a skill that most people don't actively work on, and asking for more information if it's something hard is another level. All right, the 5th one is, and this is an open-ended question, is what would be helpful right now? Okay. Okay, so the first one is breathing. And it seems pretty basic, right? It's like, yeah, Jen, I know, breathing. And breathing is like such an intentional thing to do whenever you're in a moment that's tough. There's a lot of different ways to breathe, and a couple of them I just wanted to go through real quick. One is a circle breath. Some people, when they think in their brain about breathing, some people think circularly, people think in a linear form. And so trying on the active idea of taking a breath that's in a circle might be a little out of the box for some people. So I'm wondering if we can just take a moment, and I want you to actively, maybe even close your eyes. And from the top of your head, I want you to take a deep breath in and pull all that air from your belly all the way up to the crown of your head, and hold. And allow that breath to move back down. And so when we do a deep belly breath, really like filling up our abdomen and then consciously pulling it up through our chest, up through our throat to the crown of your head, and holding, and then allowing it to move back down, you're sort of bringing the energy back into your system of focusing inward instead of noticing everything that's outside yourself. It's a conscious effort in moving inward. And so I'm wondering if we can do one more deep circle breath to see how people like that one. And then also adding in the visual of a circle is just, it might be new for some people. All right, so the next one I want to show you, and this is one that's awesome for kids. This is when I was a teacher for 20 years, I did this all the time in the classroom, especially with kindergartners. But it's really just, if you're working with kids or if you have kids at home or even in your own office, you can actively breathe in, up your finger, back down, in, back down, in, back down, in, back down, in, back down. All right, so this does a couple things. One, you're tuning in to a really focused moment. And this is also a really great one for if someone's moving into panic and having a panic attack. When you focus in on breathing and actively turning away from something that may be dysregulating, where it's ruminating the thought pattern over and over in your head, focused on breathing and focusing on your hand to be like the co-regulation piece can help that person kind of move out of panic, or even if they're in anxiety. And the cool thing about it is it brings you back into the present moment versus being, focused in on whatever that cognition is. The fourth one is box breathing. And box breathing is breathing in for 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds, breathing out for 4 seconds, and then holding again. And so I love having people notice the difference between breathing in through your nose versus breathing in and breathing out through your mouth. And so let's just try it. I want you to just breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your nose. Okay, there's that one. Now I want you to try this out. Breathe in through your nose, and then when you breathe out, I want you to kind of make your mouth into like you're holding a pencil. And I want you to allow all the air to move out through your pencil hole of your mouth. So let's try it. Breathe in through your nose, and then breathe out through your mouth. All right, what do people notice? There's a real difference when you breathe out through your nose. If you breathe out through your nose, it tends to be a little bit shorter. But when you breathe out through your mouth and kind of making that pencil shape, you tend to move so much more air out of your system. And the cool thing about this is that it's regulating your nervous system. We know that when we breathe in at the beginning of something that's scary and hard, that is regulating our internal system. And if you do it with someone else, you're helping them co-regulate. And so when you help someone co-regulate, it can help them kind of move out of the hyper-aroused state that they're in and come back into their nervous system getting a little bit more regulated. And so the science of that is, moving into a parasympathetic. And I know we have a bunch of nurses in here that know what I'm talking about. So just notice that this is one just first thing that you can do with listening, is helping that person regulate through breathing. And so you don't have to, do a big lesson on it with them, but literally if someone comes with you and you just take a deep breath and then kind of maybe invite them, okay, yeah, I want to hear what you have to say. Let's just take a breath for just a sec. It can kind of help that person feel a little bit softer. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, acknowledging what's happening. So this active listening strategy is moving into IC. Part of doing this is acknowledging what's happening. So we know if someone's not listening to us, right? If they're active, if they're holding eye contact, what's their posture. Sometimes it's helpful to mirror the speaker's body language to just show that you're really listening. And also just allowing that person to complete their thought. Oftentimes we're thinking about what we want to say next. And so this is an active intentional listening skill of really listening to what people are saying, and not formulating what you want to say next, but holding that eye contact and listening, and using just brief affirmations of like, okay, or I see, uh-huh, just allowing the person to get out all the information of what's happening. All right, this next one is focused on emotions. And so I said this before, that when we move into a highly emotional state, we can't think logically. And so since people move into this other part of their brain where they can't really problem solve, it's helpful to just focus in on what is the emotion. And so this is the part of you as the listener, is noticing, what emotion is being activated right now? Also just letting them know that that sounds really hard, not moving into like some sort of strategy of wanting to problem solve, which we mostly do. Most people want to move into like, okay, how can we fix this? Let's fix this. But just allow them to that you're listening, and let them know that sounds really tough. And if you notice, it's another level of noticing what the emotion is for that person and mirroring it back. And the cool thing is, sometimes we get the emotions wrong, and it's okay. It's okay. If someone says something to you and it sounds like they feel like their anxiety, and you say, it sounds like you're feeling really anxious. And they're like, no, I'm not anxious. I just feel totally abandoned. Yeah, thank them for letting them know, yeah, okay, I'm so glad you told me that. I'm really, yeah, you're feeling like you're left behind. It's so amazing for people to hear that you are listening, and that even if you get it wrong, that you can adjust to that and mirror it back to them. Also allow time to just all those emotions to get out, and allow that person to really feel the emotions. A lot of us were kind of trained as kids not to be allowed to have emotions. And so when people move into emotions, for a lot of people, they get really uncomfortable and just want to kind of get out of there or move on out. And it's such a wonderful gift to give someone, to allow them to be in an emotion and be that safe place. Okay. So the next one I want to go into is active listening strategies, number 4, which is just invite some more information. Really, they might get out, most people, when they get out all the emotion, you can tell, okay, all the emotion is kind of like drained out of their system. Check back in about what else they might want to share. And this is usually where people move into wanting to share their experience. Most people think, this person's telling me this thing, how can I relate to them? And they start thinking about what they can share that might be helpful, that kind of is in a linear, paralinear information. But try to hold back with that. And some people, they might try to share, oh, okay, she's telling me about divorce. I'm not divorced. Who's divorced? My aunt. Okay, I'm going to tell them about my aunt's divorce and what was helpful. Just try to hold that back if you can, because people, when they're sharing, they're not really interested in finding out about your aunt's divorce or whatever it is. And I know that this is a normal thing that move into, but if you can just stay on the path of validating and just listening, this builds trust. This builds rapport with the person, and it also may allow a little bit more time for other thoughts and emotions to surface. So yeah, try to not problem solve, try to not add your 2 cents about what you think would be helpful. All right, so this next one is asking open-ended questions. So what would really be helpful right now? That really moves you into the present moment. How can I be here for you? That is moving into a future moment. And you'll notice both of these questions are open-ended questions. So they're inviting collaboration. It's also giving back the person that's upset the ability to move into their own power and notice, gosh, what would be helpful? Instead of, most people want to tell people what would be helpful, but if you just allow the person to notice what would be helpful for them, they usually know. We tend to know what we need way better than other people telling us what we need to know. And so this is another level. If you can paraphrase, if you can say back what you're hearing the person is saying. Yeah, so if someone says, yeah, I just really hope to like have some fun, bracket in some fun time with you. Like, this is really hard what I'm going through, but can maybe we like schedule in like going to the movies or something? Yeah, mirror that back and say, yeah, I'm hearing you want to like go to the movies. That sounds awesome. I can do that for you. And just also avoid messages that intend to be support, that you're trying to convince them to feel differently. So this happens all the time. And again, this is kind of tapping on the word that I went over earlier with the why. So when people move into, why are you so emotional about this? One, that's not validating. It's not a big deal. Just snap out of it. Then that's really invalidating the person. And people tend to remember everyone in their life that invalidated a really strong emotion and told them they were wrong about that. So just notice that, and that is something to move into to really avoid trying to make people feel differently than how they feel. And again, avoiding the urge to give advice, just allowing them to be the problem solver and not you. That this is another gear for people to move into. The thing that it does is it helps people move into their own internal compass about how they can move through the day, instead of looking outside of themselves to see externally, well, who else can be the internal compass for me here? When you give this gift back to people over and over, like, okay, yeah, it sounds like you're not sure what to do, but let's just like, let's sit with this. Like, what else do you think you could do in this moment to help yourself through this? That really allows people to be the problem solver in themselves. And it teaches people to trust themselves and see, okay, I don't have to go outside of myself all the time to figure out what to do. This is a real gift to give people. Okay. So what do you notice? I kind of buzzed through those kind of quickly for time, but let's check in and let's see, this is our poll. So Desiree, can you help with this? Setting up a poll for us.
Sure. It's going to take me a couple minutes. Hold on.
Oh, okay. Well, let me move back to it. You know, why don't we just allow people to just shout it out? We're kind of low on time, so go ahead and take yourselves off your screen, and let's find out what people notice. Like, what are some of these that they think they're good at? All right, I see something in the chat. Paraphrasing. Yeah. Ooh, such a great skill. So when we can say back to the person what they just said, that's an amazing skill. All right. Taylor says breathing, co-regulating. Amazing. Julia says validating. Yeah. So just letting the other person know I can hear what you're saying, and this is tough. Lonnie says emotions, empathizing, asking, and nonverbal cues. Peggy says paraphrasing. And people can also just share over the thing. You know, I'm a former teacher, so I can sit in silence a long time and wait for you to share. So yeah, what are people noticing that they're good at? And maybe also what are things that you can improve on? Any of these look like a goal for folks that they think they could work on a little bit? All right, Holly says asking. Nicole says validation. And Julie just added asking open-ended questions. I do not have an answer for something to work on. Nonverbal cues. All right. Yeah, so this is kind of a nice moment to just notice what are things I can work on a little bit more, and what's something that maybe I can have a goal with my partner or with my kids or even in the workplace. Um, all right, Kim says, thank you. I can work with listening without giving advice towards my kids and allowing them to access within. Oh, that just gave me chills, Kim. And that's another skill in allowing, I think as a parent, we want to guide our kids so much to the sense that we tend to helicopter them and then they don't get to figure it out on their own and look within for the advice that fits for them. And so it's tough. It's really tough to watch your kids move through something and like have it be really hard and not want to like fix it for them and just shower them with so much advice, but giving it back to them and asking, what can you do in this moment? How do you think you can move through this? And then just like keeping your mouth shut and allowing them to just, think about it and find out solutions for themselves. They will tend to come back to you over and over because you're a safe place where they can kind of like workshop ideas instead of always being the external kind of top down information that we actually are pretty used to in our society. We tend to be in a top down society where people are telling you from the top how to do stuff. And it takes another gear to allow people to figure out internally what works for them. So thanks for that, Kim. Okay, I'm looking at time. Anything else people are noticing as I'm talking, or even just looking at this, at what we've just learned? I'd love to hear from people.
So I'll just kind of share maybe a little experience when people do not have good active listening and you're on the receiving end of it. It actually, I feel that it makes me more frustrated. It does not help information. And I guess like if there's like a good way, to approach that, not feeling validated and I guess just in general on that receiving end when somebody is not a good active listener and you're trying to share out of the workplace or not. So I wasn't sure.
Yeah, that's such a good question. Yeah, when you're on the receiving end of someone just not validating, not listening, just talking over you, just like all the things. Yeah, and you're in that moment where you just want to be heard and listened to. Yeah, that's such a great moment to pull in an I statement and saying, I'm wondering if you can just listen to me right now. I just really need someone to listen to me. I know you want to help me in this moment. And notice I'm not using but. And I'm wondering if you can just be with me in this moment. And so I can say that again and notice how I'm kind of pulling in some of the communication skills we've gone over. I'm avoiding but. I'm using I statement, and I'm also using open-ended questions. And so, yeah, hey, I'm wondering if you could just sit with me for a moment and just listen to what's going on for me. And it would really help me because I just really need to be heard in this moment. How did that sound?
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's okay. You don't have to be perfect. It's like, it's just, it's practicing I statements. I wonder, I'm curious. I really need just a moment. I statements are really helpful because you're not pointing the questions and saying, you need to listen to me right now. if I had said a you statement, that would have definitely put that person into more of a defensive feeling, and they probably wouldn't want to listen at all after that. So avoiding you need to, it tends to be a more helpful communication skill. So thanks so much, Nicole, for bringing in like a really good example that we could kind of workshop. What else do people notice? Peggy?
I like the idea of just breathing as a listener, breathing yourself and not saying, take a deep breath, because nothing makes me madder than somebody telling me to take a deep breath.
Love that.
If they ask
Yeah.
for help and they're like, can you help me? Then maybe, I don't know,
Yeah.
where's the line there?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that is a co-regulating skill. When you do that, and I did this all the time with kids, especially at recess, I would just take a deep moment of like a deep breath, and then they would kind of like, do it too. So yeah, and if you say you need to breathe, how does that feel? No. And you can invite a breath and ask and through an I statement. I'm wondering how it would feel to just breathe for a sec. They could say no. They could say no. And when you say, I'm curious or I'm wondering, you're not like stamping them with like, you have to do this right now. But it is okay to invite a breath too. But yeah, I get that. Like if someone's like, you need to breathe. Yeah. Anyone else? Anything else they're noticing? Yeah, B-Rad.
Yeah, so I just noticed something. I put in the chat, some part of a song. The song
Oh,
is
cool.
Cassidy, and I think it is a song Bobby Weir of the Grateful Dead wrote, and it's this young child Cassidy, and I think it's his daughter or his imaginary daughter. And then kind of the end of the song is fare thee well, let your life proceed by its own design. I have nothing to say now, let the words be yours, I'm done with mine. And I thought, wow, that resonates so well with letting your kids kind of have that freedom. And then I typed that and I looked at that out of the context. If you didn't know the song and weren't familiar with Bobby Weir, I was like, oh my God, did I just like tell this whole group to like go F off right now? Like, so
No. Yeah.
that had me reflecting on the importance of taking things in context. And yeah, how much context matters to
Oh,
communication.
this is such a great example. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, and texting that doesn't happen all the time where we'll send a text and people will they'll have a different reaction or read it out of context or it gets lost in translation. And so yeah, coming back in to let people know. And wasn't that helpful? Like I could see your face. You're like explaining it in like a really soft tone. And I wasn't triggered by it or anything. I hadn't seen it yet. But so helpful in like just checking in and letting people know, hey, this is what I meant. So perfect. Thanks so much. Okay, Bobby Weir. Good stuff. Okay, well, okay, I'm going to keep moving for time. Okay, well, this is perfect. Here we are at just a review. So yeah, we did a mindfulness skill at the beginning. And if you want to access that video, that'll be on our website if you ever want to bring it to your team. And it's really helpful to do with closing your eyes and like visualizing what your container will be, because then if you have it visually within your own system, then you can access it a lot easier. The other thing, we just kind of skimmed over the ways we communicate, noticing verbal and emotional intelligence, and then just a brief overview of the power words. But really, we focused on, after watching the video, the nail about active listening strategies. And so as we finish up today, I would love to just check in about, what are your takeaways? What is something that maybe you can put in your back pocket moving into your week, or something for your home or whatever? But yeah, what did people notice about today's class? All right. Well, while you're thinking about that, I did notice in the chat that Desiree did put in a link for giving us some feedback. We want to get better and learn how we can provide these classes better. So yeah, if you can take a moment just to give me any feedback about how I can make this more accessible, I am so happy to hear from you. All right, so Kim K said, I gained new listening skills. Thanks for sharing, Kim. Julia's added, I will try to focus on not offering advice. Oh, that's yeah. Oh, it's so juicy to give advice though, isn't it? It's so fun. Like it's pretty delicious to give advice. So that's always been one that's been tough for me to like hold back that feeling. So thanks for that, Julia. Holly Simpson said, working on communication skills is a lifelong commitment. So true. Yeah. And there's so many ways to keep continuing with learning how to improve our communication skills. We'll have some more classes on it down the road. Other one, be rad. Thank you. Hard part is when people don't have the knowledge and communicate with me in unhealthy ways. I need to practice tolerance. Oh, I appreciate that vulnerability. Thanks, be rad. You know, whenever someone shows some form of vulnerability, it just opens up space for other people to be vulnerable. So I so appreciate you moving into that feeling. And let's see, Peggy said, we'll try harder to not be thinking of my response while other person is talking, and not always trying to jump in with my experiences. Yeah, thank you for that. That's so easy to do. Elissa says, I'm so thankful for this information power hour. I'm reminded about improving my listening skills at work. Cool. Information power hour. Let's just rename. Can we rebrand this, Desiree? That's pretty good. Let's hashtag that. I like it. Thank you so much. Nicole says, it's wonderful all around and a refresher on how to be present and helpful in conversation. Oh, beautiful. Okay, well, I appreciate all your feedback there and sharing a takeaway or reflection. And we just really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come on a Zoom class and focus in. And I appreciate really all the wisdom that was shared in the room. So thanks again. Our next class that's coming up is focused on gratitude and the power of appreciation. And so I will be leading that in a couple weeks. And what is the date for that, Desiree? I think it's the 14th of December, 14th of December. Yeah. So look for that. And again, these classes, it's rare for the university to provide a class that's free and open to the public. So know that you can share the class with other people that aren't in public health. And yeah, he says, I'd love to get the recording too. Oh gosh, we are working on that really quickly. We are trying to edit these and get them on the website. So as soon as those are there, what do you think, Desiree? We'll send out an email?
Yep. That's the hope, wish, and dream.
That's the hope, wish, and dream. Okay. Love that. I might have missed one other chat. If I could get this recording. Oh yeah, thanks. Okay. Yeah, I just appreciate everyone. And Peggy says, thank you. Wonderful. All right. How can I get on the listserv? How can she get on the listserv, Desiree?
You know, that runs through Carolyn and Patrick at the university. So, Julia, I'll write your name down and I'll look into that.
Great questions. Okay. Yeah, because for some of you that may have not been to our other classes, they've been building on each other. So you may want to check into the other class. Oh, Kelly says, what's the listserv? Good question.
Right. One's a government listserv and one's the listserv for the School of Public Health, Public and Community Health students and faculty. If you would like to try, we can start a new listserv. We can do that.
For folks that aren't under that umbrella, I'm wondering about figuring out a public listserv or something. Yeah. I don't know. Okay, we'll figure that out.
Go ahead and email me and we'll get that I'll get that figured out.
Okay. Lovely. All right. Well, it's 11 o'clock. I hope you all have like an awesome, fantastic day. It's Thursday. It's almost Friday. So enjoy, and thanks for sharing everything today. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.